Dude, thanks for coming on again.
A pleasure, man. It's been 4 or 5 weeks now. Loving it.
Yeah, it's good fun, man. These are crushing. I'm really happy with them. So like tonight, obviously we're going to be going over sugar cravings and how to beat them. So this is going to be for anyone who, number one, obviously wants to lose weight, have more energy, feel better, and the way they want to do that is through improving their diet. Like sugar cravings is one of the biggest issues that we see. Like you see this all the time. Everyone craves sugar, and it all comes back to that same dopamine response that we all get whenever someone craves cocaine, someone craves being on Facebook, someone craves any sort of dopamine source. And the hardest thing about this is the root of all addiction. So Harry, where should we start in how we're going to beat sugar cravings?
Well, first off, like the way that we like to look at everything is like, look at what you're actually doing here. Like in searching for sugar, what are you actually trying to address? Like for a lot of people that, are looking for sugar, the sugar and having that fix is just a band-aid of a root issue, right? Like, why are you craving sugar? Why are you craving dopamine? Why are you craving a pick-me-up? Like, what is deficient in your diet, in your nervous system, in your system as a whole that's causing you to need sugar?
Well, I think we should break that down even further, dude, because there's two reasons, and I love that you brought that up. Why are we actually craving this? There are two parts to that. Number one is like when we're craving sugar, we're craving it because we are calorically deficient and we just want to get some fucking food in. So any of your bodybuilders and whatnot, I mean, there are times when I was doing bodybuilding back in the day where I was eating fuck all and exercising a lot, and I just wanted to eat something. Like I just want to eat something, and sugar is the most palatable food. But then there's also the dopamine side of things, which is even more powerful a lot of the time. Like, can you expand on the difference between those two people?
So like especially with the sugar, like the body craving sugar, right? Like we actually have these neurons in our digestive system that send signals up to our brain and kind of detects like the quality of the nutrients that are coming in. Right, it sends signals based on the sugar, based on fatty acids and amino acids. So when it senses sugar and that goes through the vagus nerve up to the brain, it sends another signal to another part of the brain which wants dopamine. It's like, that was cool, let's get more of that. And one of the funny things that they've actually found is we get that signal, as I just explained, kind of comes from the gut. A lot of people think that craving comes from, I like the taste of that, I want more, which sure is part of it. But they did this study where they actually put, sugar into people's digestive systems. They bypassed all taste and they still had those cravings. Like, even though they didn't get a taste of it, that craving, I guess, was coming from their gut, telling their body, we want more of that, essentially, because it didn't satisfy a whole lot of needs. So we're going to need more of that to, I guess, nourish our body.
So is that like nutritionally regulated? Is in like the gut's saying we want more calories? Or is that once again going back to a dopamine type, like addiction? I want more of this. Because the cool thing about dopamine, right? Well, not cool and not so cool thing is that you don't have to like something to get a dopamine response. Dopamine is just there to get you to have more and more and more. Like, think of Scarface, like when they're on that table where he's got piled up with shitloads of cocaine. He's got all the money, he's got girls, he's got houses, everything. And he just wants to plow his face into another bit of cocaine and fucking kill some more people and get more, right? It's that dopamine insatiable thing. Is the gut coming from a caloric standpoint and just wanting to get more food in, and that it's like it's giving you these cravings because it's genuinely hungry? Or is this, once again, one of the dopamine cravings?
Well, it's a bit of both, right? Like, because it starts in this instance anyway, it kind of starts in the gut and then goes up to the brain. So there's part of it that comes from a point of, like, especially mostly sugars, like, that wasn't very nourishing, we're going to need more of that, which is like to supply calories, to supply energy, to supply the body with functions. And then there's the other part of it that, as you said, kicks in that dopamine. It's like, that was fun. Like, let's get more of that. But the problem with this kind of a response is, for people that are having sugar cravings after a full meal, that does not serve them at all, right? If you've just had a substantial meal. You just had your steak, you just had your veggies, all that kind of stuff. Having cravings for a dessert does not serve you at all, because you should be full. You've received your macronutrients. You should have received your micronutrients and things like that. So then having that sugary fix afterwards generally is a sign that something in that meal, whether it was either it's too high in sugar, which is, from what I've read, seems to be what the science is telling us. It was too high in sugar, which is making us crave more sugar, funnily enough, which then, depending on the time of the day, can have its own effects, right? That's where we end up going in the sugar spikes and then the troughs and go for more cravings because we get depleted and blood sugar goes
Can you run
low.
us through that in a bit more depth?
Of course. So, like in terms of those
Sugar
cycles,
spike. Why does that happen? Like, why do we get these sugar spikes and troughs?
so when we get those spikes, it's our blood sugar going up. That's when we get energy. That's when our body's trying to remove the glucose, I guess, from the blood and like distribute it across the body for energy and things like that. And then eventually that gets removed, and then we get that crash. And that's when a lot of people kind of feel that slump, and whether they try to fill that slump with more sugar or calories or caffeine, a stimulant, or anything of that nature, then brings you back up. And then eventually you go back down and you go in that cycle. And if you're doing that all day, it becomes freaking exhausting for your nervous system. By the end of the day, you're absolutely cooked. And then this is where a lot of people kind of get caught in that trap, is you get exhausted by the end of the day. And, for most people, we still have that little sneaky bit of dessert after dinner. So that causes its own little peak and trough. But because you're so exhausted, your nervous system's so exhausted from doing that all day, you don't have any issues getting to sleep. But then because of the sugar and everything else from dinner, then, and even alcohol, all that delays your body's, your digestive system in breaking that down, that filters over into your sleep. So if you're lying down, trying to sleep, and your body is still trying to break down alcohol and sugar and anything like that, then your digestive system is working harder because you don't have the aid of gravity anymore to break things down. So it's working harder, it's working longer, which means your heart rate is still elevated, which means it's going to take even longer while you're trying to sleep for it to drop down, which means it's later in the night before you get any resemblance of deep sleep and REM sleep. And then by the time you wake up, you may have slept through the night because you were just that exhausted, but you got one and a half at best cycles of deep and REM sleep, and you wake up feeling tired and cooked the next day. And then the first thing you reach for is that coffee. Or
the other thing too that we often neglect to mention as well, if we have a shitty night's sleep, we immediately get a bump in cortisol, we get an increase in insulin resistance. So our levels of glucose are actually like higher the next day, which then sets us up for exactly what you said, for those peaks and troughs to start going again, like over and over and over.
Yeah, 100%. And then because we're tired and depleted to a certain extent as well, our resilience to stress, our decision-making ability is all inhibited as well. So you're automatically starting behind the eight ball. So like the less optimal decision that you can make throughout the day are either automatically wasted or, put to other uses. So when it comes to especially either resisting those cravings or snacks or making smarter food choices, that's one of the last things that we prioritize. So you end up getting stuck in that cycle. And then eventually those cravings or those snacks become, an extra shot of coffee or more sugar, more calories. And then even though your main meals may not have changed in size, you've now doubled your calories just in snacks and the extra lattes and whatever else you have alone, right?
100%. The biggest reason why I see a lot of people get sugar cravings, even when I get them, it always comes down to this nervous system every single time. And you guys hear me harp on about the nervous system over and over and over. But as soon as that bad boy is working against you, your life is going to get much more difficult, much, much more difficult. Whenever you're stressed, whenever you're anxious, whenever you're not sleeping well, whenever you're not feeling good, you are going to have a tough time, period. Like straight away, immediately from the get-go. It is always going to make things much, much more difficult. So then when we're looking at that, dude, like what's the role of supplementation? Like to your mind, where can we implement supplements to help us control our sugar cravings and our blood sugar levels?
So a good supplement to incorporate if you want to regulate your blood sugar levels and aid your digestion as well is berberine. If anyone wants to check that out, BERBINE.
BERBERINE.
Yeah, okay.
You missed on BER.
Check that one out. That's good as well. But then ultimately, you just want to look after your nervous system. So supplements like GABA, like L-theanine, like reishi, anything like that is going to be massive for just not neutralizing, but keeping your nervous system nice and level, so it makes it easier for you to make decisions on what your body actually needs and what's going to be beneficial for you in doing what you need to do, both from a work standpoint, but also from a goals-oriented standpoint in terms of sticking to your calories and getting your steps in and all those kind of decisions that usually get flung out the window when we get stressed and everything turns to shit.
So step number one out of all this is look after your nervous system every single time. Step number two is recognize the importance of the digestive system. And that's the biggest thing that we often underestimate. There's like one thing that I don't get is when people just talk about calories and macronutrients as if they're the only important things that matter within this whole amazing system of the body. The digestive system is massive because our digestive system is the site where it regulates all this. It secretes all what these called incretins, which are like little hormones and not quite hormones, like enzymes almost, which help us with digesting and breaking down like all of our food. And the third thing is utilizing supplements appropriately, things like berberine to actually stabilize our blood sugar. Now, is there anything that you would recommend that we look at in addition to those three things if we want to beat sugar cravings?
On top of that, I recommend people just learn to be more in tune with your body in terms of what it's actually craving. Like one of the things that I would like to get my guys to work on a lot is being in tune with yourself to know that what certain foods, certain habits, certain activities, certain stimuli do for you in terms of, do they make you sleepy? Do they make you alert? Do they make you lethargic? Things like that. And then if that's the case, either use it to your advantage. You're not going to have a meal or do something that makes you awake and alert at 9 o'clock at night when you're trying to go to sleep, and vice versa with something that makes you lethargic. But if it's something that's making you lethargic in the middle of the day while you're trying to work, don't be naive about it in terms of just trying to mask it and have more caffeine and things like that. Look at what you're doing from I know it's hard, but like a non-emotional point of view, and try to rule some of those things out. And that's why having a coach or having a third party look at what you're doing from that outside view can be super helpful. Because when we get used to doing things the same way over and over again, then it makes it really hard to actually judge what's causing what. Right?
Now, sorry, go on, dude.
Oh, I was just going to say, and especially when you're trying to cut out, talk to anyone that's cut out sugar or caffeine from having it as a pretty staple part of their diet. The first 3 to 4 days fucking suck, right? A lot of people get headaches. They get like standard withdrawal symptoms almost. But if you want a shot at regulating your nervous system, regulating your digestive system, and like being able to find that level, that balance, then cutting that stuff out and finding where you truly sit in terms of like your natural energy and all those kind of things is going to be your best bet. Otherwise, you're just relying on stimuli to get through the day.
100%. It's always best to, number one, like look internally and actually learn how to feel. I've talked to a lot of people and a lot of other practitioners who are going around, and one of the biggest issues that we have is that we don't actually listen to how we feel. And then number two is actually track. Number three is having someone who's external, outside of us, to hold us accountable. And now Louis actually asked as well in here, good question. What if someone's a diabetic? Does this apply to someone who is a diabetic? It's like, yeah. 100%. Now, with diabetes and with any sort of medical condition, whenever we're talking about it, always listen to what your doctor says first, because they're the people who are working with you. If your doctor, your specialist, your coach, whatever, whoever you're working with one-on-one, that's who you should listen to. But the rules stay the same. If your blood sugar levels fluctuate, you're going to have a tough time. If your nervous system sucks, you're going to have a tough time. If your digestion sucks, you're going to have a tough time. If you're not utilizing every single thing that you can in order to stabilize those levels and keep them in a nice range, it's not going to be fun for you at all. Now, guys, as well, if you find that because you get these cravings and you get all these energy highs and lows and ups and downs and you're all over the place, we've got something for you. Comment energy in the comment section below and we'll hook you up with a free energy boosting cheat sheet, which will tell you exactly what you need to do in order to avoid feeling fatigued and lethargic throughout the day, beat 330itis, and just feel more on top of your game 24/7, 365. Like, literally, think of it this way. You know those days where you wake up and everything you touch turns to gold? Like, it's great. You fucking wake up, you rock hard in the morning, you're super energetic, you run downstairs, you get your breakfast ready, head off to work, crush your day at work, have an amazing day. It's literally like you're high-fiving everyone down the street and you feel really fucking good. Well, imagine if that's your life every single day. Not like once a year or once a decade, like every single day. If that's what you want, just comment energy down below and we'll help you out. But Harry, thank you so much for coming on, dude. It was fucking unreal. Really, really, really cool and very simple. I love it.
Yeah, a pleasure, man. I know there's a thing, an issue, and a lot of guys and girls, obviously, have, and a lot of people just can leave it up to chance, I guess. Oh, it's just how I feel today, and just go with the flow. But if you're someone that wants to be optimal, then leaving things like that to chance probably not going to be your best bet. So getting on top of that is going to be massive for obviously like achieving your fat loss and your physique goals, but also having control over your cravings, inner peace as well, and just what you want to get out of life, right?
Love it, dude. Yeah. Love it. Unreal. Thanks for your time, brother. Appreciate it.
Likewise, man. See you soon.
And by the way, comment energy below, guys, if you want access to that. If you want to boost your energy, feel fucking incredible every single day, energy below, just like James Moore's done. Speak to you soon, crew.
Yeah, guys. See ya.
I hope you enjoyed the video. If you got something out of it and you want to learn more, click the link below or type in High Performance Conversations with James Cant and you'll be able to check out all the podcasts that we've done. We cover a stack of different topics, everything from getting your mojo back, overcoming anxiety, self-doubt, self-esteem, and learning from some of the industries and some of the world's top performers in both business and in health. Look forward to having you on there.